a business guide.
The ultimate resource for practical business know-how. It was aimed squarely at young men and women starting out, teachers too,
Hmm.
and even scholars old enough to grasp business concepts.
So pretty broad.
Hard work, diligent labor, and proper research.
So definitely not about shortcuts or just, getting lucky.
Not at all.
Welcome to the Deep Dive, a business guide from the very start of the 20th century. Looks like around 1901, maybe 1902, judging by some dates inside.
That's right. And our mission for you is basically to unpack this thing, pull out the key advice, and see what it offers, a modern learner looking to get up to speed efficiently.
Exactly. What can we actually use today?
Well, the folks behind this revised edition, they had a huge vision. They really wanted this business guide to be the ultimate resource for practical business know-how.
The only one you'd need.
Pretty much. They drew on specialists, the latest books of the time, all aiming to help millions, literally millions, make good decisions and, well, succeed. Quite the goal.
Definitely ambitious. And who was it actually for? Not just the big bosses, right?
I don't know. It was aimed squarely at young men and women starting out, teachers too, and even scholars old enough to grasp business concepts.
So pretty broad.
Yeah, the whole idea was simple, comprehensive, practical principles, stuff you could apply across different jobs, banking, legal issues, ethics, even practical math. It's all in there.
Okay, let's dig in then. What's the core philosophy? What were they really driving at?
Well, right away, you see this strong belief in merit, real merit and true excellence, they call it. That's the foundation.
So earning your success.
Exactly. Plus hard work, diligent labor, and proper research. They even mentioned Benjamin Franklin as, the model for this. It's all about self-improvement through effort.
So definitely not about shortcuts or just, getting lucky.
Not at all. The main goal was equipping people to make intelligent actions, profitable investments. Basically setting yourself up for a prosperous life by being informed.
Preventing failure through knowledge.
Precisely. And they were very upfront about the dangers, too. Explicit warnings against trickery, confidence men and sharpers.
Some things never change, right?
You got it. Even back then.
Okay, so beyond that core idea, what specific skills or practices did they really hammer home as essential for business?
Oh, the advice is super direct, and it covers a lot. Punctuality, for instance, that's huge. They call it the mother of confidence.
The mother of confidence. I like that.
Yeah, and there's a quote from John Briggs, "Be on time." Simple as that. Frankness and integrity, too. Big focus there.
How did they frame that?
Just say what you mean, do what you say. Very straightforward. Really values reliability,
That's timeless stuff, isn't it? Still totally relevant.
Yeah.
What else on the sort of practical ethics front?
Well, there's a whole list, really. Never forget a favor. Be wary of well-dressed rogues. Looks can be deceiving, right?
Good advice.
Steady effort builds wealth. Don't be afraid to say no. Avoid tricks of trade. Never misrepresent anything.
So honesty is paramount.
Absolutely.
Huh.
Avoid useless quarrels. Never lie or deceive. Invest wisely based on intrinsic value, not just hype. Don't run down competitors. Examine business details carefully. Be prompt. Take time to consider, then decide firmly. Dare to go forward. Be patient. Maintain integrity.
Wow, that's quite a list.
It keeps going. Avoid business lies, useless acquaintances, appearing to be more than you are. Pay debts promptly. Shun strong liquor. Employ time well. And never be discouraged. It's like a complete moral code for business.
It really sounds like it. Just being a decent, reliable person seems key. What about experience versus just book learning?
Oh, they're very clear on that. Nothing can be substituted for actual business experience. Theory is good, preparation is good, but it doesn't replace doing the work.
Makes sense. You learn by doing. And what if things go wrong? Failure must have happened back then, too.
Of course. And the guide actually offers a pretty encouraging take. It suggests failure can be turned into brilliant and permanent success if you have determined effort.
Turning it into a positive.
Yeah, they use this analogy of the British winning battles by just refusing to admit defeat. Perseverance is key.
And did they say why people failed?
They did. They quoted several prominent figures: Alex Stevens, President Bartlett, President Eliot, Dr. Dexter.
And what were the common threads?
Consistently, it came down to character flaws: lack of punctuality, honesty, principle, fixed purpose, perseverance, thoroughness, faith in right and truth, stupidity, laziness, rashness, dishonesty, basically failures of character.
So character is just foundational. What about how you treat other people? Interpersonal skills.
Hugely important. Respecting others' feelings and opinions is vital. They even say many failures come from ignoring this.
Really, ignoring feelings causes failure.
That's the implication. And get this, kindness is described as the best capital to invest in a business.
Kindness is capital.
Wow. Yeah. Promising high returns. Politeness, good manners, essential for good relationships with associates.
So it's not just about tough negotiation.
Not at all. And if you want to change someone's mind, the advice is to first respect their current view. Build connection, don't just argue.
That's actually really sophisticated advice for managing people.
It is. There's even this line, be ashamed to die until you have won some victory for humanity. Puts things in perspective, doesn't it?
Wow. Beyond just making money.
Right. And valuing all honest work, even humble manual labor. They also kind of debunk the idea that everyone's cut out for great fame.
What's the alternative then?
Just doing well, whatever you can do. Focus on contribution, not just fame or grand ambition.
That's quite grounded, actually. And talent. Is that the key?
Nope. Purpose and the will to labor through difficulties are seen as more important than just raw talent.
Willpower over talent.
Exactly. They tell this story about a young Peabody sawing wood to get by who becomes a millionaire philanthropist through sheer determination.
So overcoming your circumstances.
Right. And they call it the age-old habit of blaming circumstances, mentioning Adam and Aaron from the Bible, the core message. A clear, strong purpose drives success.
Okay, so strong character, treat people well, find purpose, work hard, solid stuff. Now, they also get into really practical skills, starting with language.
Yes, communication was clearly vital. They admit mastering all of English is tough, but basic correct spelling, that's expected.
How do you get there?
Careful reading, using a dictionary constantly. They even quote Thomas Jefferson telling his daughter to never spell a word wrong.
Wow, intense, no pressure there.
Right. And imagine no spell check back then. It mattered even more for things like job applications.
Makes sense. And they mentioned that thing about shared responsibility.
Yeah, the old everybody's business is nobody's business problem. Meaning you need individual accountability. Someone has to actually do it.
Right. And spelling tied into jobs, how?
Especially with typewriters coming in. You could be a great shorthand typist, but if your final typed letter was full of errors, not good.
I see. So the guide actually helps with that.
Yep, includes basic spelling rules, examples of common grammatical errors, and how to fix them, like a mini-style guide.
It really is. And punctuation, too, not just spelling.
Oh yeah, they use funny examples, sentences that mean totally different things depending on the commas, to show how crucial it is for clarity, especially in business. Misunderstandings cost money, right?
For sure. What's the rule then?
Basically, punctuate where the sense requires it. Simple, but effective.
Okay. So from the mechanics to actually using language, correspondence,
Yeah.
business letters, social notes, what's the focus there?
Promptness. Answer all letters quickly. That's stressed a lot.
Good policy.
And presentation matter. Handwriting needed to be neat, elegant, correct, not just readable. No carelessness or rushing. Your letter was your representative.
Your professional image on paper. What kinds of business letters did they show?
All sorts. Ordering goods, someone young starting out needing to open an account with a wholesaler. Crucial bit there about providing testimonials for reliability.
References were key.
Totally.
Hmm.
Also letters acknowledging payments, asking for a loan, chasing overdue bills or rent, applying for a bookkeeper job even mentions referencing a specific professor. Gives you a real feel for the day-to-day.
It really does. And social letters. Similar principles.
Yeah, examples for saying you can't make an event. Importantly, giving a reason, invitations for birthdays or meeting friends. It's all about maintaining those social ties politely.
And those testimonials you mentioned, recommendations, they were a big deal.
Absolutely vital for trust. The guide explains how they work, gives examples of writing one for someone and asking for one yourself.
What about other types of letters?
Letters of congratulations, like for getting over an illness, sympathy or condolence letters too, with advice to be comforting but avoid, dwelling on upsetting details.
Sensitive advice.
Yeah. Even includes a letter from a kid at boarding school to parents and a playful one from Ben Franklin to his wife. It really underscores the importance of written communication everywhere. And the reminder, kind words cost nothing.
Nice touch. Did it go into more formal stuff, like resolutions?
He did. How to write resolutions for clubs maybe when a member passes away.
Right.
Or for political action, like instructing legislators, even resolutions thanking convention officers.
Very thorough.
Plus tips on improving penmanship, using titles correctly in addresses, Honorable Esquire, etc., keeping business and social matters separate in letters. The style should be simple, clear, forcible, and always send copies of testimonials marked copy.
Protect the originals. Smart. Okay, moving into the money side. Promissory notes, banks. What's the lowdown there?
Gets very practical, explains exactly how to write different promissory notes payable to order or to bearer, interest-bearing ones, joint notes, notes with a principal and a surety.
All the variations?
Yep, and how you transfer them delivery if it's bearer, endorsement if it's to order. Explains blank versus full endorsements, the liability of endorsers, guarantees, just like a primer in basic credit and debt.
Foundational financial literacy. What about banks?
Gives a quick history. Bank of Venice, Bank of England, Bank of North America. Stresses their value, safekeeping funds, providing loans, handling exchange.
The core functions.
Right. Explains check endorsements, crucial points like writing out the amount in words, fraud prevention, right?
Yeah.
Presenting checks promptly, liability for altered checks, certified checks.
Lots to know about checks.
Definitely. Also covers certificates of deposit, drafts or bills of exchange, how to write, accept, transfer them, different forms, letters of credit, what happens if you alter them.
And how did all these checks move around?
Explains the clearinghouse system, how banks settle up with each other efficiently. Also talks about transferring other commercial paper, demanding payment, the whole credit system, pros and cons, interest rates charged by sellers.
And if someone doesn't pay?
Covers debt collection. Stresses being tactful first, but also outlines the legal options. Lawsuits, judgments, executions, attachments, the practical realities.
A solid grounding in finance for sure. What about personal finance? Saving money.
Big emphasis on saving, right from your first earnings, however small. Quotes John Jacob Astor about how hard it is to save that first $1,000, but how crucial it is.
Sets the foundation.
Exactly.
Right.
Leads to fitness for bigger responsibilities. And it warns against just waiting for an inheritance. Encourages teaching kids practical business methods early.
Makes sense. Anything else?
Interestingly, it suggests teaching wizened daughters about debtor-creditor laws, even practicing endorsements on sample notes. Financial literacy for the whole family.
That is pretty forward-thinking for 1901. Okay, shifting gears, disputes, legal stuff. How do they advise handling disagreements?
Starts with sensible advice. Think twice before you sue your neighbor.
Good starting point.
Then it heavily promotes arbitration, agreeing to let a neutral third party decide. Much better than court, often faster and cheaper. Gives forms for the arbitrator's oath, witness oath, says it's especially good for farmers.
Practical alternatives. What else on the legal front?
Covers formal agreements, proxies or powers of attorney, apprenticeships, rights and duties of master and apprentice. Marriage laws sees it as a civil contract by consent, mentions breach of promise suits, stresses good faith.
Wow, covers a lot of ground.
It really does. Rights of married women to own property, wife's authority if living apart, divorce laws, grounds, remarriage issues, dangers of easy divorce, reconciliation.
Law too.
Yep. Parent and child relations, custody, adoption, discipline, no cruelty. Kids supporting needy parents, liability for kids' crimes, guardians, public school laws to teacher qualifications, duties, rights, what a month means legally, director responsibilities.
School law. Okay.
Civil service law, how to get appointments, postage rates, domestic and foreign, legal holidays, newspaper subscription laws, what happens if you don't cancel,
That's surprisingly specific.
liability for runaway horses, trespassing animals, fence laws, public road laws, how to petition for a new road, owning a dog, your responsibilities, mining laws, locating claims or courting, disputes, foreigner rights, penalties for claim jumping.
Mining laws. It just keeps going.
Money itself functions, types, gold, silver, notes, etc. Legal tender, counterfeiting, how to spot fakes. Warnings against gambling, betting. Explains the Monty game, patent fence swindles, signature scams, read before you sign. General swindling schemes, syndicates. Basically, be careful out there.
It's like an early 20th century legal and practical life handbook. What about actually structuring a business, partnerships, corporations?
Covers the basics, partnerships, liability, how to dissolve them, then corporations open versus close, state laws for setting one up, articles of association, stock subscription, electing directors, stockholder voting.
Key differences.
Highlights advantages of corporations. Limited liability for stockholders, easier borrowing, easier to change owners, stockholders having less direct power. Briefly mentions holding companies, watered stock.
Complex stuff, too.
Yeah. Discusses boards of trade, mentions speculation, cornering the market. Warns against bucket shops, shady brokers. Explains commercial agencies like Dunn & Co., Bradstreet, how they gather credit info. And building and loan associations, understanding the landscape, basically.
Got it. In transport, communication, big changes happening then, right?
Huge. Guide notes the impact of steam and electricity, faster, cheaper transport. Big mention of improved methods for shipping perishable goods, massive for commerce.
Game changer for food supply.
Exactly. Touches on government control of railroads. Explains common carriers, their legal duty to carry goods, their liability for loss or damage, unless it's an act of God like a natural disaster or due to a public enemy, meaning wartime issues. Explains bills of lading the shipping contracts.
What about mail and money?
Discusses registered letters, liability limits, advises against sending money by personal check unless you're commercially rated, suggests telegraph money transfers as safer sometimes. Shows how things were connecting.
Definitely a world getting smaller, faster. The guide even defined legal terms.
Yep. Basic stuff like accident, burglary, perjury, how to qualify statements to avoid it, murder in the first degree, even discusses duels as murder. Still a thing, apparently.
Wow. Duels.
Presents a little legal puzzle about finding a lost pocketbook, who gets to keep it. Explores employer-employee relations, service obligations, employer liability for employee negligence, employee duties, settling disputes. Emphasizes the law of kindness in the workplace.
Kindness again.
And deals with lost notes or bills, how the law evolved on whether you could still recover the value.
Okay, this is incredibly comprehensive. And then there's a whole section on practical math and measurements.
Oh yeah, it's massive. It starts with bookkeeping, single versus double entry, modern trends towards simpler methods, gives sample daybook and ledger entries, advice on farm accounts.
Makes sense for the time.
Explains interest, usury. The banker's method for calculating interest refers to compound interest tables, tips for adding long columns fast, working with certain fractions, multiplication tricks.
Like math hacks?
Kind of. Cancellation method for division, using a wheat pricing example, then specific calculations. Carpet laying, estimating stonework, finding volumes of tanks, wood piles, measuring slate for roofs, making curves for arches.
Really practical stuff.
Defines basic mechanics terms, angle, right angle, practical household hints, furniture care, furnace registers, floors, hardware porches. How to find a circle's diameter, draw a circle through 3 points, find a polygon's area.
Even DIY instructions.
How to make a simple ice chest. How to measure logs for board feet. Calculate distance plowed. Measure hay in a mow or stack. Estimate tonnage.
For farmers and homeowners.
Gives legal weights for commodities, flour, corn, etc. Table showing costs of coal, hay, typical wages from the 1890 census. Hog and cattle tables for estimating weight and value. Ready reckoner tables for quick price lookups.
Calculators.
Exactly. Huge lists of weights and measures. Linear, square, cubic, liquid, dry, apothecary, surveyors. Weight per cubic foot of various materials. How to find the day of the week for any date.
That's a random useful skill.
Foreign mail times from New York. Postal distances and times to U.S. cities. Distances of state capitals from D.C. Data on governors, state areas, admission dates, population from 80, 90, 90, 90, 90,000 electoral votes, common business abbreviations, a business dictionary, and a full index. It is staggering.
It really is astonishingly broad. Just an incredible amount of practical information packed into one place. Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive into this early 20th century guide, what are the key takeaways for you, our listener, aiming to get well-informed quickly?
Well, I think the sheer scope is the first thing. It's a remarkable snapshot of the business world and practical life over 120 years ago. You now have a real sense of the mindset, the priorities, the skills considered crucial back then.
And it strikes me, while some advice is obviously dated mining laws maybe, or reliance on testimonials, so many core principles feel, well, timeless.
That's absolutely true. The emphasis on ethics, diligence, continuous learning, good communication, that stuff hasn't changed much, has it?
Not really. Which leads to our final thought for you to chew on. How do these historical business principles stack up against today's world? Where do they clash with modern practices? And where do they surprisingly align with the challenges we face now?
Yeah, what timeless wisdom can you actually pull from this look into the past? Which of these ideas, kindness as capital, purpose over talent, meticulous communication, resonate most with your own experiences and learning goals today? Something to think about.
Definitely. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.